A hilarious new stand-up special from comedy legend Jim Gaffigan, The Skinny, is coming to Hulu November 22nd. This Thanksgiving, see Jim in a whole new light as he gives you the inside scoop on everything from parenting teenagers to weight loss and gaslighting family members. For everyone in need of a happy hour, the new hilarious stand-up special, Jim Gaffigan, The Skinny, premieres November 22nd, streaming on Hulu. Why get all your holiday decorations delivered through Instacart? Because maybe you only bought 2 wreaths but have 12 windows. Or maybe your toddler got very eager with the advent calendar. Or maybe the inflatable snowman didn't make it through the snowstorm. Or maybe the twinkle lights aren't twinkling. Whatever the reason this season, Instacart's here for hosts and their whole holiday haul. Get decorations from the Home Depot, CVS, and more through Instacart and enjoy free delivery on your first 3 orders. Service fees and terms apply.
Ask me, ask Eliza anything. It's time to ask. Ask me all your questions. Leave them in the Instagram comment section. Leave them on your Twitter or leave them on your Facebook. We'll see them, we'll read them, then we'll give you answers. You know it, I've got it. I've got the answer, you ask me. I'll tell you anything. With me today, you guys already know this because you sent in so many questions. It's a little weird to give an intro to somebody that has this credit of hosting The Tonight Show for over 20 years. But it's Jay Leno, and he's on my podcast.
Thanks.
So you and I met, just for everyone that doesn't know, a couple years ago, we got asked by the Today Show to perform in Afghanistan for one show, one night.
Right.
That is right. You corroborate that?
Yeah, that seems fair.
Yeah. And you were very nice. I was very nervous to talk to you, but we were both in the lounge and I just sat right next to you and you just started talking to me. And I have wiggled my way into your heart ever since. This is the second time.
Exactly.
Coming on my podcast. And you had me on your show. You had me on Jay Leno's Garage recently. Well,
Right.
yeah. It hasn't aired yet. But while we were there, I trapped you. You said, okay. So people got a lot of questions for you, and I know you got a lot of answers. Here we go. Fire away. New York Fred for you, who's also my father, says, Jay, did you ever get to meet the original Tonight Show host, the brilliantly talented and very funny Steve Allen? If so, can you share a story about him?
Oh, yeah. I love Steve Allen. In fact, I was very close with Steve's wife until the day she died. I used to send her flowers every year. She was a nice lady. Steve was really very funny. He was that first sort of, the guy most like Steve would probably be Letterman, because he wasn't so much a stand-up comedian. Although Dave was a stand-up, he didn't like doing stand-up very much. He liked just being a raconteur, just talking. Steve could play piano. Just a very talented guy, music, a little bit of everything. Yeah, very nice. I like Steve a lot. I would see him occasionally throughout the 90s until he passed away. And I went over to his office. He was playing piano and, just looking at his various awards and talking about The Tonight Show in the early days and Ed Sullivan and his feud and just all of that. So, yeah, to answer the question, I did meet him. He was very nice.
Okay, yeah. I love that he had a feud with Ed Sullivan, because whenever you don't like another comic, you're like, am I the only one who doesn't like this person? It's good to know that beef goes at every level.
Well, see, the way what it was the feud was because The Tonight Show, I think, paid $500 or whatever it was to be a guest. Ed Sullivan, well, when Alan King was on the Ed Sullivan Show, mm-hmm. He got $12,500 an appearance in the 50s.
Right.
Which would be the equivalent of pretty close to $100,000. I mean, my parents paid $19,000 for our house in 59. Mm-hmm. So $12,000 for one 5-minute spot on it. So, and it sounds silly, but TV was bigger then than it is now, because although there weren't as many, everybody had a TV spot.
Right.
That was true when Johnny had The Tonight Show. When you were on The Tonight Show, everybody the next day saw you. There were only 3 things on late at night, and Johnny was 60% of that or 70% of that. So had much more of an impact than it does today.
Right. Absolutely. That was the only game in town. Lore Star and Lily Shumlung says they both grew up watching jaywalking and want to know about jaywalking. They say, hey, Liza and Jay, I'm a true elder millennial. I grew up watching The Tonight Show hosted by you, most of the time sneaking out of my room instead of sleeping. Who's your favorite jaywalker? I distinctly remember the woman who thought that DC in Washington stood for the Capitol. Much thanks to you both. Thank you so much.
Well, the fun part about jaywalking was we didn't try to find people that were obviously mentally deficient in some way. No, you know what I mean. I mean, you don't want to be cruel.
Right.
We tried to find normal people who, the real secret to it was between 19 and 40. There's some hormonal thing that happens with people. They're more worried about impressing the other sex or getting a date. Or we found if we did jaywalking with 8th graders, they got all the questions. And if we did jaywalking with senior citizens or people even over 55, they got all the questions. The people who screwed up the most were between 19 and 40 because, is this the right answer? That way? I mean, my favorite question was, how was Mount Rushmore formed? And the answer we got more than once was erosion. Not only did wind and rain pick,
I guess the
greatest.
Yeah, nature had a preference. I guess the formed. I think that's weird wording because then it makes you think of nature versus made. But okay, no, that's dumb.
And we never talked to more than 20 people, and we always used at least 12. Everybody gave us something. It was pretty amazing. We weren't out there all day. We weren't editing, and we never had a plan. We never had somebody. You say this,
right?
Because
you don't need to.
Were like, well, what?
Yeah.
What? Yeah. I mean, you couldn't believe people actually said the things they said.
I can't believe that people are. I've done man on the street stuff before, and I love talking to people, but I hate actually doing it because it's hot. People on drugs want to fight you, and I can't believe people sign off on it. They're like, "Yeah, it's okay that I said that weird thing." That weird racist thing. Just keep it.
As long as people know that you're not, because we never tried to embarrass or humiliate people, although we did. They embarrassed themselves. We never went for the obvious joke. It's the same rule I used when I was working clubs and I would talk to the audience. If there's a big fat guy in the audience and he's heckling me, I make fun of his tie or something else. And after a while, the guy realizes, how come he's not going for the obvious? And they realize, I'm not there to kill a guy. I'm just there to have fun with the guy. And then eventually that's sort of how you win them over. Mm-hmm. This happened to me once. I had a road rage incident. The only time I ever did this. I was in traffic one day and the guy's behind me, beep, beep. I said, I pull. I said, go around me. As I go by, he gives me the finger, So I pull him, I go, what's that all about? He starts swearing at me and yelling at me, So I look at him and I said, let me guess. What are you about, 45, 50? You're fat, you're bald, you're divorced, your kids hate you. Your best year was what, high school? You've hadn't had a date in how long? And then I realized everything I said was and the guy starts crying.
Oh, no.
He goes, you're right. I said, pull over. So now I get in his car, I go, look, I'm sorry. No, everything you said is true. He's just crying. I said, you got kids? I have kids. My daughter doesn't speak. I said, does your daughter like Taylor Swift? Yeah, she loves it. I said, have Taylor Swift on the show. You want to bring your daughter to the show? I said, bring your daughter. I'll introduce you to Taylor Swift. So I invited the guy and he came. And by this time, he was a whole different guy. The daughter was, my dad knows somebody who knows Taylor Swift. And it turned it around. I realized, it's easier to be nice. It's too much trouble to be a prick. And it was just funny. But everything I said about the guy, well, sure, he was fat, he was bald, he was divorced, he hadn't had a date in years, his kids hated him. And I realized I literally stabbed the guy in the heart. And I felt so bad about this when he started crying. But the Taylor Swift thing, man, Taylor was great. She met the kid and was very sweet and gave the kid an album. And, so it worked out okay.
Now, you're never not hosting. That takes a lot because I would have been like, you started it and I finished it. How do you like that? That's sweet. That's very sweet of you. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. I know being thankful is on everyone's minds, and with thankfulness comes gratitude, a concept that, honestly, really bothers me. I'm tired of thanking everyone else. You know who deserves a thank you? Me.
You deserve a thank you. When's the last time you thanked yourself? Sometimes it's hard to remind ourselves that we are doing the absolute best we can. So here I am reminding you to send some thanks to the people in your life, but mostly send some thanks to yourself. And a great way to do that is with therapy. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, and it's suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire and you get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time, no additional charge. You don't have to travel anywhere. They take the hassle out of finding that perfect therapist. Let the gratitude flow with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/Eliza today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Eliza. Fall has fallen. Winter is on its way. The days are shorter. But just because, they feel shorter. And just because the days feel shorter doesn't mean your to-do list gets any shorter. You still have to power through your busy days. And a great way to do that is with nutritious food from Factor's no prep, no mess meals. At the end of a short day in the fall or the winter, the last thing you want to do is have to cook. Factor has got you covered from breakfast, snacks, dinner, anything in between. Factor has easy, nutritious options to keep you fueled, like their chicken Florentine with spinach and garlic chili cauliflower. You bet. That's what I want to make myself at the end of a day where I am exhausted and my husband isn't home. Whether you like routine or you enjoy mixing things up, Factor has you covered with 35 different delicious meals every week and over 60 additional convenience options you can add on, like keto cookies, pressed juices, and smoothies. And because Factor meals are chef prepared and dietitian approved, you're going to love not only Factor's meals taste, but also how they support your goals, even if your goal was just making yourself dinner. Head to factormeals.com/Eliza50 and use code Eliza50 to get 50% off your first box and 20% off your next month. That's code Eliza50 at factormeals.com/Eliza50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. The holidays are here. And for a lot of us, the holidays mean decorating, hosting, celebrating. For me, it means a lot of traveling, and nothing feels better year-round, but especially during the cozy holidays, than a restful night's sleep in soft, luxurious sheets. Boll & Branch's signature sheets are made with the finest 100% organic cotton, and they get softer with every single wash. You already know that I got Boll & Branch this summer when I needed breathable sheets to sleep in, but this holiday season, I'm actually gifting some of my friends and family Boll & Branch's Ultimate Softness Bundle. I get to choose a signature hem sheet set in any color, a signature hem pillow set, and a waffle bed blanket. And they're all getting juniper because I think it's a classy color. This way, you know you have something nice to sleep on when you visit. It's the perfect gift for you and them. Gift you and your loved ones a better night's sleep with Boll & Branch. And right now is their best offer of the entire year. For 25% off plus free shipping on your first set of sheets, head to bollandbranch.com/Eliza. That's Boll & Branch, BOLLAND branch.com/Eliza for 25% off. Limited time only. Exclusions apply. See site for details.
Yeah, you have a lot of patience. Because you've been famous for so long, it could be very easy to just not want to deal with people. I remember when you and I landed in the Middle East, I don't know if you remember this, nobody was there to pick us up. And you and I were just together. I'm clinging to you because you're my only ticket out. And no one was there to pick us up. So we had this manifest on us. So we picked a phone number for the USO and you called it. And you're like, it's Jay Leno. And they were like, if Jay Leno was coming, we would know about it. And they hung up on us. Do you remember this?
Right, I do remember. That's right. I do remember that. Because we were surprised. Yeah.
I would have been livid. And you had so much patience. You were so sweet. At no point were you like, you guys fucking left us in the middle of this airport. No one got us.
I am a huge believer in low self-esteem. I think it's the key to success. I'm dyslexic. I was a terrible student. I can remember coming around the corner just to hear my parents going, because my brother was smart. He went to Yale, and I could hear my parents go, what are we going to do with Jay?
What are we going to do with Jay?
I just remember hearing that sentence. And I go, what's up? Oh, what? Oh, hi, son. How are you? My parents felt terrible when I heard this, but I was sort of like the dumb kid. And so I always I realized, the key is really listening. And if you don't think you're the smartest person in the room, don't say anything. It's like when I did the Tonight Show, I hired the best director, the best lighting people, fine. I let them do their job. I mean, so many shows where the star of the show wants to run this, and I feel the lighting should be like this, and then there's animosity and people are pissed off. We had the same crew for the 22 years I was there, pretty much the same crew, except ones that got a better opportunity or got married or something like that. And it was the same writers, the same everybody, because we all sort of got along, and you learn not to, most people can't do anything.
Yeah.
And some of us can do one thing, and there are a few people that can do 3 or 4 things, but I'm one of those people. I seem to be able to do one thing pretty good. And that seems to, so I leave it at that. I let other people do what they do. And I realize, when you're in show business, you're only as good as the audience that comes to see you.
Yeah.
And if you wind up pissing people off and getting in fights all the time, the reason people fail really has anything to do with their talent. Because if you have talent, that'll get you there. The reason they fail is sex, drugs, gambling, money, greed, and just one of those. Too straight, too gay. I always used to tell comedians, if you can physically make it to the stage for 7 years, you'll be a success. And people go, what are you talking about? But it's true. But you think of the people who fail. They fail because they're sick of doing their act. They've done it so many times, they hate it now. And they begin to resent the audience that laughs at it.
Right.
Because they're not coming up with new stuff. Or they party every night, or they drink, or they're somebody else, I'm better than they are. I remember once do you remember Joey Bishop? Do you remember that name?
I know that he's one of the Rat Pack. Yeah, of course. I
had Joey on the Tonight Show, and he comes out and he sits down. He's funny. I said, Joey, thank you. My next comedian, very funny, and please welcome Louis Anderson. So Louis doing his stand-up, and I feel this tug on my shoulder. Hey, you think that's funny what I did? I go, Joey, no, I said, Joey, you were funny just naturally. He's just doing an act. And then, hey, you think that's funny? You think he's getting more laughs than me?
Oy.
He was so furious that Louis was getting. Then when Louis came over, he kind of gave him the cold show. And I'm like, really? Yeah. I mean, you're one of the Rat Pack. You're saying, really? This still goes on? I mean, you can't give it up. And I thought, here's a guy who's probably been miserable his whole life. What's the point of doing this if you can't enjoy it and enjoy it for your friends? You as a comedian, you can't do every job that's out there. So I would tell other comics at Seinfeld, you should call this guy, or like when Steve Martin brought Johnny Carson in to see me, and I was always grateful for that. And I brought Johnny in to see Ellen DeGeneres, and each one helps the other, because in show business you'll ultimately get more work from your friends than you'll ever get from agents or managers. Other comedians, other performers will help you. Although it can be a cutthroat business, it isn't necessarily so. I mean, people are always very nice to me. So consequently, I try to be nice to other people, help them out when I can. And it pays off.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think if you look at comics who don't do well, it's because they're deeply miserable and they find a way to sink their own ship. But you're right. It's rarely because someone just isn't talented, although that does happen. Did you tell Joey Bishop he's the least memorable of all the Rat Pack, and that's why he's probably so upset?
Well, it was just weird, He was a very bitter guy, and I just thought, what an awful way to go through life, I mean, I realized 20 years ago, okay, anything past this point is gravy.
Yeah.
My parents got to see me be successful. Okay. I'm the only one left. Who am I trying to impress? So just enjoy yourself. Whatever happens, happens.
Enjoy your life.
Yeah, enjoy your life.
Exactly. Lorison Dwyer says, was there anyone Jay regrets never having interviewed / been on his show?
Well, I wish I could have had Jack Benny on the show. Jack died before I got George Burns. I knew. I didn't get to know Jack. As a kid, I remember literally being in a crib and listening to Elvis Presley. And I thought, well, that'd be kind of cool to meet. I don't know. He passed away long before. But I got to meet just about everybody. I mean, one of my favorites was Sean. I love Sean Connery. Sean Connery was Big Tam, they used to call him, And he was third runner-up Mr. Universe, 1953. Did you know that?
No, I did not.
When you hear the term man's man, it applies to Sean. He was a big, tough guy, and he was just a street. He was a longshoreman. He was a fighter, and the producers were smart to get him, put him in a Savile Row suit, clean him up. So he always had that sense of danger about him, which came across on screen. But whenever he would come to the Tonight Show, Jay, have you got a joke? Jay, what's the joke of the day? And he would laugh like a man. He would laugh like, just this manly laugh. Jay, that's a knee slapper. He just had this huge laugh. And so whenever he would come, I always try to have some sort of filthy joke from him. Jay, have you got a joke, Jay? What's the joke? And I would, and he was the only guy that ever took a shower at the Tonight Show. Jay, have you got some towels? We'll take a shower.
Wow.
Take a shower. And but he was a big, tough guy. But he just used to make me laugh. And we went out to dinner a couple of times, and the whole restaurant would rock when he laughed. I mean, he laughed like a pirate. That, like he got a flagon of ale. Oh, gee, that's a good one, gee. How does that joke go, gee? Just a character.
I love that. That's an awesome
nice
answer. Yeah.
Yeah, he was a great guy.
Allison, the traveling wino, says, now that you're out of this realm, who do you think is the best late night show host currently on TV? And who do you think would be a great host?
Well, it's hard to bet. Everybody's very good. Fallon is the one most like Carson, because Carson can play drums and do magic. And Jimmy is an incredible mimic. I heard him do Neil Young and a couple other people, and I thought he was lip syncing.
Yeah.
And he was singing. Colbert writes brilliant jokes. Kimmel, very funny. Whenever I watch Kimmel host the Oscars, I'm always amazed at how good the jokes are, because he knows jokes. Mm-hmm. Some he writes himself, obviously. And obviously you have writers. We all did. So they're all really good. It's hard. Conan, obviously very good. I was the one that I remember when I started the Tonight Show. 13 weeks in, they were going to cancel Conan. And I went to Omar and I said, look, I'll promote the guy every night. I'll say who he has on. And it was great. And he's very funny, obviously. So they're all different. It's hard to pick. Letterman, of course. I don't want to leave anybody out. Oh, I noticed Jay didn't mention, so if I left
No, we're not going to trap you. Well, I did have my own late night show for 6 episodes, and I think I'd be a great late night host. And I did stand in for Jimmy Kimmel. So,
well, the real trick to doing it, really, is to be the host when you're doing the monologue, and to listen because a lot of times, a lot of people did this and they'd win the battle and lose the war. A lot of times a guest would say something and you would have a great topper. And then you realize, I don't want to throw that topper.
Right.
I don't want to be funnier than the guest is here. So you learn to pull back. And of course, Arsenio and I were great friends. But we had a period. I'll tell you a funny Arsenio story.
But yeah.
When we started, it was, we were rivals, and Arsenio was on the cover, and I'm going to kick Leno's ass, all this kind of stuff. So when he debuted his show, I watched his first show, and he had Brooke Shields on. He was very funny. And he said something along the lines of, this show is going to be about the music, about the funk. You're not going to see Barry Manilow's ass on this show. And everybody applauded. Okay. So, weeks go by, getting to be Christmas around the beginning of December. I see Arsenio's gone on. He goes, tomorrow night, Barry Manilow will be on the show. I said, oh, this is perfect. So the next day I called over, and we hadn't spoken, So I said, hi, Jane, he doesn't want to speak to you. Just tell him he doesn't want to speak to you. I said, just put Arsenio on the phone. I said, what do you want, man? What do you start yelling at me? I go, ooh, tomorrow night, Barry Manilow. And he fell down laughing. And then we became friends again, and it was fine. I said, ooh, you want to see Barry Manilow? That's not right. And it made you realize, when you do a late night show, you need every guest. You can't afford.
Right, sure.
You need every single person that's out there. So that was sort of fun.
I had no idea Arsenio was so cutthroat.
No, it wasn't cutthroat. It was just the nature of the business.
Nature of the beast. Moving away from the Tonight Show and onto just straight up comedy. Megan Stone, ABC. Hey, Eliza and Jay Leno. Jay, with you serving on The Tonight Show for over 2 decades, you've watched the shifts in cultural opinions and sensitivities over the years. My question to you and Eliza is this. How has cancel culture shaped the entertainment industry and comedy throughout the years? When is cancel culture justified? When is it not? Is cancel culture here to stay, or do you think it'll lose its influence? Love the pod.
Well, we've always had some form of cancel culture. It's getting... I can remember as a kid, people would do jokes about Black people or Spanish people that seemed very funny at the time. I remember Bill Dana used to be, my name Jose Jimenez, and he would be this Latino character that wasn't very bright, and okay. And people just, and that disappeared then. That went for a few years, but by the mid 60s, well, can't do this. Same thing with jokes about African Americans, same thing of jokes about any other group. And now it's moved on to obviously gay people and every other, but gay jokes used to be very common back in the 60s and 70s. Johnny would always lighten the loafers, all those kind of jokes like that. And those were seen as just jokes. And then, so, here's my thing. Tell me what the rules are and I'll follow them, okay? I always use the automobile industry as my, in the 70s and the early 80s, when they came in with emissions, the American automobile companies went to Washington with millions of dollars for lobbyists. We can't meet these goals. We can't do this. We can't have cars that pollute this little. It'll put us out of business. You'll lose jobs. The Japanese came in and said, tell us what the rules are. Tell us exactly what we can do and what we can't do. They took those rules and went back to Japan, and they came back with cars that were fuel efficient and fast and powerful and good looking. Okay. Whereas we just wasted time trying to stop the train, but the train is coming. Okay. So, do what you got to do to make the ride the most comfortable. And that's the same thing. Obviously, sexist jokes used to be fairly common still are for a lot of comics, but they find out they're not getting work on. Look, if half the audience is going like this and they're not laughing,
it's not funny.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I remember years ago, I was in West Virginia working a club, and I was working with a guy who, African-American comic who billed himself as Flip Wilson's cousin. Whether he was or not, I had no idea. He used to do, the audience was primarily white. And he used to do black jokes like, I'm not really colored. The lights in here are just very hot, just stuff like that. And white people laugh, but when black people come in, they'd be like this. And then when there were more than a dozen African Americans in the audience, he got real uncomfortable on stage because he was ashamed of what he was ashamed of his act.
Right.
And he could see that, but something, you want that laugh. Getting that laugh is such a powerful thing that he was always conflicted, and I don't know what happened, whether he drank himself to death. I never heard him again after that, but it's just one of those things you can do. I would see with female comedians, there was nobody funnier than Phyllis Diller. Phyllis Diller was a great joke writer, and she was an attractive middle-aged woman when she got into comedy. And I don't mean that as an insult. I mean, she's an older lady, she's attractive. But because of the network team, you'll be threatening to female viewers if you're too attractive. She had to make herself look corny and goofy and wild. And she was not ugly. Remember Bob Hope? Oh, she's so ugly. This was and she would you have this cackle. She was a lady. She was a woman. But unfortunately, that's what she had to do back in the day. But a great joke writer, was really funny. I had her in the Tonight Show until she was, I think I had her on when she was like, maybe 90 or 91.
Wow.
She came on the Tonight Show and she said, she just did her act. Jay, my husband Fang, him? I go, yeah. Well, my mother-in-law is visiting. I go, your mother-in-law?
You're 90.
How old is this woman? And she thought that, and then she realized how ridiculous it sounded. Was she 150 years old? So it was, I mean, she was really funny, but it was tough because then you had to change her. You couldn't be, I believe I had a guy named Bill Smith, first openly gay comic, if not on TV, certainly on the Tonight Show. And I remember he came out, his opening joke was very funny. He said, I'm gay. And the audience goes, ooh. He said, I'm currently seeing a psychiatrist. I'm also seeing a Navy captain for football. and the audience, and from that point on, it's just comedy.
Right.
Thank you. He was smart. I think he had a Lou Gehrig's disease or one. It's horrible. He died. A very funny guy. So you talk about cancel culture. To me, it's just a matter of the pendulum swings one way, then it swings the other way. And it'll come back to center because for all the racist, sexist, homophobic jokes people used to do, it swings this way. Nobody does them anymore, at least not without consequence.
Right.
And then it comes back to the middle where we can lightly sort of, we find where the goalposts are. That's really what it comes down to. I don't find it to be that big a problem because when I started in comedy, you had to work clean.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't work dirty. There's no place you could work. So then clubs come in, you could loosen up a little bit. But now guys start out filthy and it's impossible to clean up a dirty joke. It's easy to make a clean joke dirty, but you can't make a dirty joke clean.
Yeah.
So to me, you just tell me what the rules are and I will follow them. And people go, oh, that's a sellout. No, it's not.
Right.
If a company hires you, like I always meet comics say, I did this corporate event. They told me I couldn't say this, but I went out and I said it anyway. And I go, okay, so you never get hired by that company again. Agent will never book you anywhere. I mean, if you have that integrity, don't take that job if you don't believe.
Well, there's that. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you're a working performer, my thing is you should be able to make everybody laugh. I mean, I booked myself once at Oral Roberts University just to see how that would go, and it was fine. They just said, no sex jokes, no drug jokes. I said, okay. They laughed at the political stuff. They laughed at everything else is fine. They just didn't, for whatever reason, they just didn't want a sex joke. You're the customer, you're paying, fine.
You're paying for it. Yeah. I think cancel culture is getting canceled as we speak. I think people are tired of it. I think people have hit like their BS limit. And I think dance with the one who brought you. And I think it always comes down to integrity. Do the act that you want to do and don't do it where it isn't wanted.
That's right. And also, a lot of cancel culture is the news media making it more like this current. Here's a story. Dr. Seuss is being pulled from the shelves.
Right.
You heard that?
Yes.
Right? Is that what you heard?
That is what I heard.
It's not. The publisher of the Dr. Seuss books with the Dr. Seuss family or whoever the relatives are said, a lot of this stuff seems inappropriate in this day and age. Let's take it out. Oh, good idea. Okay. So before there was a problem or anybody complained, they took it out on their own.
Right.
But there's no story in that.
Right.
The story is Dr. Seuss can't. I mean, that happens to me all the time. I always find when someone asks me about the late night wars, I don't just answer the question reasonably. I either Leno lashes out.
Right.
Or Leno breaks his silence. If you listen to this broadcast, I've never been silenced in my life. But they always have to have this dramatic,
right.
And you can answer in the most calm way possible. Leno lashes out, and then they always get a shot of you like this. Yeah, hilarious.
Yeah, it's got to be sensational. Well, nobody likes things to go smoothly. It's always, and no apology ever matters. We can talk about that there's another part of the show.
We've all got a thing. For me, it's vintage furniture. And now talking about how I found it on eBay is like my whole personality. Even at 2 a.m., when I can't get 19th century sofas off my mind, I'm on eBay for sure, scrolling my favorite seller's storefront, setting search alerts, and building the watch list of my literal dreams. I know antique lamps aren't everybody's thing, but the best part about eBay is it doesn't matter what you're into. Fashion, car parts, trading cards, it's all there. So go find the thing that keeps you up at night. eBay. Things. People. Love.
So finally, fall is here. I have been looking forward to it. I have had a hard year in a good way. I had a baby. I have been on a nonstop tour, nonstop traveling, and it's been hot. So I'm looking forward to, of course, pumpkin spice, everything, cooler weather, and slipping into a cozy sweater from Quince. I've talked about Quince before. Quince has beautiful leather jackets, cotton cardigans, soft denim, and so much more. All Quince items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. Dressing expensive doesn't have to be expensive. Their clothing is beautiful, it's durable, it stands the test of time, and it's what I like to call a capsule wardrobe. I got an Italian wool cocoon coat that's one of those It's got like a European collar and it covers my butt so I can walk around New York City and not be chilly. And Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices. Get cozy in Quince's high-quality wardrobe essentials. Go to quince.com/Eliza for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/Eliza to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/Eliza.
Just downloading says, as hosts/entertainers between live streams and TV shows, how do you deal with hecklers or just terrible people on your shows? I guess that the question for you. Go ahead.
You mean people in the audience?
Yeah, like when you do you? I mean, I don't even get that many hecklers, so I can't imagine you do, especially at a ticketed event.
I don't get that many.
Yeah.
Crowds tend to think as a unit.
Yeah.
If you pick on one unfairly, the crowd will turn on you.
Right.
But for the most part, no, I don't find it to be a big problem. I always try to answer. So you had a question? What is it? It's the same way I did with Psychos. I'm sitting in my house one day, just watching TV. My wife's upstairs. Guy bursts through the front door. Leno, I want you to call Governor Schwarzenegger. I want you to. He's screaming. I said, sit down, pal. Sit down. He goes, well, sit down. Okay, what can I do for you? And I hear my wife, Jay, everything all right? I said, yeah, a friend of mine is here, honey. So when the guy heard that, he just calmed down. I said, what do you need? And he had some crazy story he wanted to call. I said, I'm going to call the governor right now. I picked up the phone. It's after. I said, I'll call. I said, you know something? I'm going to call tomorrow. Okay? Okay. Goodbye? Okay. All right, thanks. I'm sorry I burst in your house. So it's okay. He left, and I called the cops, and they picked him up like a block and a half away from my house. And he was fairly harmless. But those type of people, just give people a certain amount of respect, a certain amount of dignity. Oh, and they calm right down. Like when I see homeless people, I always say, you need some help, pal? Oh, yes, sir. And they all say, yes, sir, I do. And you give them $5. Okay. I don't throw them. You always try. You try to give people a certain amount of respect or a certain amount of dignity, and they'll treat you the same way. When Kevin and I did in 2009 when Detroit went bankrupt. I called up the mayor and I said, Kevin, my band and I, we want to come to Detroit, do some free shows. We want to do some free shows for the out of work auto workers or whatever it was, because most people hadn't been out of the house in 6 months or been on a date or something. And it said, "Be just Kevin and I. Can you give us a room somewhere? Can you give us a?" So he gave us that Silver Dome, I think it was called. It was 20,000 people. We did 2 nights. We did 40,000 people. And we had 8 security guards. And we gave people, you came in, Pepsi spawned, we gave them a Pepsi and a bag of Doritos. And a comedy show, and Kevin playing jazz guitar. And we just thought, oh boy, it's Detroit. And people said, it's Detroit. You're going to have crazy people screaming at you. They're going to rush the stage. We only had 8 security guards. That's all we could afford because it was a free show. 20,000 people came in, they sat, they watched the show, they applauded, and they left. Not one incident in 2 nights. Nothing, no pushing, no shoving, because the idea was, hey, if you're out of work in Detroit, you just want to come out for a night of comedy, get out of come on. And it was great. And we got nice reviews, and people said, oh, wow, look at that. 20,000 people came to something without pushing and shoving or demanding something or grabbing the front row, whatever it might be. And it was great. It was great. So I'm an optimistic person. Society works because people are basically, I think, good. 1 out of every 600 people is a criminal. That's right. Generally. And if you live in a community of 600 people and you don't catch that guy, you have a crime wave. Because every day that guy's breaking a window or stealing something. Just that guy. It's not everybody in the town. This is something people don't get, like, the black community. No, there's some bad apples, but most people are pretty good and most people are pretty nice, And if you just treat people decently, that's why I think all this new policing stuff is good. Just learn to have, when cops used to walk a beat or ride a horse around a neighborhood, they kind of interacted. Oh, they're a good kid. That's a nice family. Now everybody's in a militaristic squad car, with.
Right. It's threatening. Sure.
More threatening. It's a bigger problem than that, and I can't solve
No,
it.
Jay, we're going to solve it right here on this
We're going to
podcast.
solve it right now. That's right. Yeah.
Here we go. Sarah Word says, my grandma once told me that she was friends with your wife and they once decorated your house with tampons. She's also developing Alzheimer's, so she told me this and I don't know whether to believe her or not. Is it true?
No, I don't know why we would decorate my house with tampons. That doesn't make any sense. No, I would tell you if that happened. No, I can't. But that is
Sorry.
funny to get Jay. My sister's a fan of yours. Then Jay, my mom was a fan of yours. Jay, my grandmother.
My grandma knows your wife. Well,
and
Sarah,
it's like Jay, my grandmother who died 10 years ago was a fan of you.
watched you when she was growing up.
Yeah, no, the tampon story, I don't believe is true. No.
Well, Sarah Word, there you can put it to rest. Your grandma made it up or conflated it with something else. Now on to the subject du jour, cars.
Yeah.
Tara Tate the Great. How do you keep track of all the keys to your cars, Jay?
Well, I'm sure there are people with bigger problems. I mean,
She wants to know how you do it.
you just sort of write on the key which car it belongs to, you see.
Where do they go?
Well, I have a lockbox. You know.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, there's your answer, Tara. Mally Erd says, if you were force is a weird word, to keep just one car from your collection, what would it be?
Okay, fortunately, we don't live in communist China, and I'm not forced to have just one car. This is America. You can do whatever you want.
One child, one car.
I don't know. I don't know which one of you. Obviously, you have to be something practical because I'd have to carry lumber and people and do because I only have one. So it'd probably be one of the station wagons, probably.
That's an interesting way of looking at it. Lucky Tavila says, most regrettable car purchase and why?
Most regrettable car purchase. Oh, I've had a bunch of them.
Bunch of lemons?
Well, usually we fix what it costs more to fix than it was worth. That would be my definition of a lemon. But no, I can't think of anything that no, not really. No, I don't really regret it. No, I can't think of any I really regret.
I guess because you're buying such high-end, nice cars. It's not like you're going to a used lot and picking out like a Tercel.
Well, no, actually, a lot of the cars I buy are not high-end. They're just regular people cars that have a great
nice.
Story. I buy the story as much as I buy the car. I mean, a classic example of that is sitting right over there. I got a 67 Chrysler Imperial, which is not a car I would have bought. But one day I'm sitting at home and I go, Jay, my name is Pupkin. Pupkin. I said, how are you, sir? I'm 92 years old. I can't drive anymore. I want you to buy my car. I said, what is it? He goes, it's a 2-door Imperial with dual air conditioners, front and back. You turn them both on, you're freezing in 2 minutes. I said, well, where do you live? Sunset Boulevard, Beverly Hills. They go, oh, well, that's near me. You're right on Sunset? And he gives me the number. I said, yeah. You want to come over and see the car? I said, yeah. Okay. How about Thursday? Okay. So I go to this house, and just like the movie, there's a long driveway. I pull up. This 93-year-old guy's outside. He got a smoking jacket with an ascot.
Wow.
And he's got with him a guy who looks like me now, about 70 with silver hair. He goes, Jay, this is my mechanic. He would service this car once a month at my home, but he wants to retire, so I want to sell the car. I said, okay, but let me show you around. Turns out this guy was a movie producer, and he produced African-American films for African-American audiences. And he had all the great black stars of the 30s and 40s. One of his most famous clients was a guy who just died at age 100. He was a African-American cowboy, a singer. I can't remember his name. But he had the black James Bond, the black Cary Grant. Because that's when movie theaters are segregated. And we walk into his house, and the house is immaculate in 1948. Exactly 1948. So we walk in the living room, the picture of this beautiful woman, you know. And I go, oh, that's a pretty lady. Who's that? I go, Jay, that's my wife. I said, she's still with? Oh, yeah, she's in the bedroom. So we go over, he knocks on the door. He goes, honey, Jay Leno's here. She goes, I can't come out right now. I don't want. And he says to me, she doesn't look like that anymore. You know? I said, well, I'm sure she's still beautiful. Yeah, she is, but she doesn't like people to see her. I said, well, that's okay. Okay, she had to be 90. Okay. So we go out, and he opens the garage door, and there's this 67 Imperial. And he goes, but if you buy this, you got to buy what's next to it. And he opens up the door. He had every spare part he was so afraid he's going to have an accident. He bought extra windshield wiper motors, a couple of extra fenders, bumpers, everything you'd need if you had an accident in the car. But he never did. And he said, you got to take all this crap. Okay, now I have to buy this.
Now you're
car.
happy.
I mean, the story is so good. And that's why I have it. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. That's a great answer. Sarah Von Paul says, I would love to know which car Jay loves to haul ass in, which car he likes to cruise in, and which one he likes to show off the most.
Well, I got some pretty fast ones. The McLaren F1 is a pretty fast car. I mean, that's a car, I bought that car in 98 for $800,000. And people said, oh, you're crazy to spend that on a car. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. The last offer I got was $17.5 million for it. One sold for $24 million in August. Wow. So it turned out to be a pretty good investment.
Moose Mom 7. Hi, Eliza, Baby Arm, Hot Scotty, Precious Snow Peach, and Jay. My question is this. What is the worst car you've ever owned? For me, it was my 1994 Nissan Sentra. It was a POS, and I bought it from my ex-boyfriend, and I drove it till the wheels fell off.
Well, I'm somehow think the ex-boyfriend is the key to this. Sounds like the car was fine until the boyfriend became the ex-boyfriend.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing perhaps the car was not maintained as well as it should have been. So, yeah. So probably something, yeah. No, I like all my cars. I don't sell anything. I keep everything.
What was your first car?
My first car was a 1934 Ford pickup truck. I got it when I was 14. I spent 2 years fixing it up so it'd be ready when I got my license when I was 16.
Oh, that's so awesome. I love a truck. I did your show and you gave me a big, what was the truck? Do you remember what I drove on your show?
The big Jeep. It's four-wheel drive, yeah.
But it was called something else. It was like a Jeep that like a company had redone. It had like an Italian name.
Oh, Resvani. That's right. Oh, yes, of course. The Resvani, which was a Chrysler Jeep product that custom fenders, all sorts of custom body parts on it. Yeah, Resvani.
That's it. It was like driving a bear, and it was the most alive I've felt all pandemic. Okay, so a big part of the show is people writing in for life advice questions, and we have a very female skewing audience, but I wonder if you might, in the brief time we have, answer a couple of life questions from some of our fans. Here we go. Hello, dear pod friends. Ask Eliza Anything is getting me through everything right now. Thank you so much. Wednesdays are the best. I have a question. I have a real problem with self-confidence and perception, i.e., caring too much what others think or worrying I will be perceived in the wrong way. Even when I know I'm perfectly capable of something and should feel confident, I don't embrace that. Maybe it has to do with sexist notions still existing in society about women being perceived as bitchy if they're self-assured. How the heck can people with quiet self-confidence not get lost in the big old game of life where so frequently it's those who speak first and loudest that get listened to the most? I don't want to change who I am to compete, but I need some tips on how to boost my confidence and stop giving such a damn of how people perceive me. It's ruining my experience of being present in my own life. Help me, Jay Leno.
Well, I think just the fact that you care what people think means you're probably attractive. You try to make yourself look as attractive as possible. You probably dress nicely because you obviously want to please other people. I mean, you sound like a very nice person. I mean, you sound like someone that I think any normal guy would want to meet because, you care about what other people think. You don't seem self-centered. You seem kind. You sound like you listen when other people speak. I think you're probably doing pretty well. I mean, these are not things. I'm guessing you're successful at what you do. The fact that you question yourself is good. I mean, it shows that you don't think you're the end all be all to every solution. And it sounds like you try to, if there's a problem, you try to work to fix it. So I think if you're any different, you wouldn't be the nice person that you are. So
you just got to be you.
Yeah, just be you. I think that's
it's okay to not be loud. You should be you. Jay, we've got a dating question. Are you ready? Here we go. Okay. We've got 2 questions, then we do top of the cob, and then the show is over. Samantha Ray _ says, I'm a 23-year-old female, and I recently started using Bumble. Jay, you're familiar with Bumble?
Go ahead. What is that? It's
a dating app, but where the girl has to make the first move.
Okay. All right.
So the guy can't pick her. The girl has to initiate convo. Right. Okay. She says, I matched with a guy. He's 27, and we've been talking pretty consistently for the last 2 weeks. His profile included his first name, his college, and a picture of him in his high school football jersey. I use this info to find him on Facebook and Instagram, but his dating app pictures look nothing like him. He used all pictures of himself, but every single one of them is 5+ years old, and he did not age well. Is this catfishing? Do I have the right to be upset? Do I address it or do I just stop talking to him? He messages me and I haven't responded.
Really unattractive. I mean, have you met the guy? I mean,
she hasn't met him.
I mean, I would at least try to meet him in person in some public place just to get a feel for. I mean, maybe he's not confident, and you don't want some cocky guy who just thinks he's God's gift to women. I mean. He might just be a guy like that previous woman who doesn't have enough self-confidence. So I'll send another. I would take a chance. I mean, think about it. You've been talking with him. You like what he says. You like what he does. You like his attitude. You're just curious about what he looks like. Yeah, I mean, I think you should meet fairly soon.
Yeah.
It sounds like you have a lot in common. I mean, take a chance. I mean, see what it is. I would go for it.
There you go. Take a chance. Meet him in a public place. And if you see him coming from 1,000 yards away and he's a hideous fish monster, just run away. He'll never know.
Or just say, I mean, your out is always, you weren't honest with me.
There you go.
Is of somebody that wasn't you. And I enjoyed talking with you. I'm just hurt that you weren't honest with me. And that's why I want to break this off.
That's exactly right.
That way there's no hard feelings. Yeah.
I love that. Last one.
Mm-hmm.
Anonymous says, so I met a guy on a dating app and I thought we hit it off right away. He was very cute, a great conversationalist, and an amazing kisser. Jay, we went on 3 dates back in October and then he ghosted me. I was disappointed and a bit annoyed, but I moved on. Now in March, he texted me again saying, hey, it's me. Not sure if you remember, but I was just curious why we stopped talking. If you're not interested in me, that's fine. He said he was just sad when I didn't reply. I told him he's the one who ditched me, but he insists he sent me a message about making plans and I never responded. So I think he's lying. Go ahead.
I think technical problems happen when you're talking via computer. I mean, why else? We're talking about young people here. And sometimes you meet the right person too soon before you've met other people. Maybe this guy met you, liked you, fairly inexperienced. Well, let me see what else is out there. Had a few bad experiences and realized, something the girl I really like is this one. I mean, I'm always amazed at people that give folks one chance. Look, if you're dating a guy that's 45 or 50 years old, okay, I get it. When you're dating someone in their early 20s, not every guy is some sort of sexual athlete or whatever. I always watch these movies where teenagers go on a first date and, they're just having oral sex and doing all these things. And you think, well, most kids don't do that on a first date, except for you. Most don't do that on a first date. I mean,
no.
I would give them a chance. I would say, let's meet in person. Let's see what this is. And just be honest. But that's what I'm probably guessing happened. Maybe he met someone else. And when you're young and immature, you do stupid things. And I get it.
Jay's advice has been consistent through the whole podcast, which is treat people like people, give people a chance, benefit of the doubt, be nice. Let's say he sent a message. Let's say he didn't, whatever. What if this guy's the one and you're holding out for no reason?
This is my dating advice. I've been married 41 years and this is what I used.
Yeah.
I always tell people, marry your conscience. Marry the person you would most like to be. I'm in show business, which is sort of a selfish profession. So I married someone who works with animals, who works with helping women's issues around the world. My wife got a Nobel Peace Prize nomination. I'm very proud of her for that.
Wow.
Working with women in Afghanistan and help people. Okay. She's doing all the things. If I wasn't a selfish comedian, I wish I could do. So now I have someone who I can look up to and admire, and hopefully there's some reciprocity there. I remember meeting, a guy told me once he met this girl. He goes, she's crazy, but the sex is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. I said, okay. But when the sex is over, she's still crazy.
Yeah.
And now you have 23 hours of crazy until the sex wheel comes around again. Okay. So you got to look at it that way. Okay. You got to find some balance. A little crazy, but a little sensible. Try and find something. Yeah.
I'm torn between calling this episode Sexual Athlete, which is what you just said, or Sex Wheel. I don't know.
Behind every successful man is a woman, and behind every unsuccessful man, there are two women. And that's kind of the way life is.
Truer words. Well, this brings us to the end of the show, and we have a segment called Top of the Cob.
It's the top of the cob. We're doing it right every day. You just take a bite, top of the cob.
Well, first of all, I never shoot for happiness. I always shoot for contented. Because happiness is like champagne. If you drink it every day, you're an alcoholic, and pretty soon you don't appreciate it anymore. So You have it occasionally. Happiness is something that happens once in a while. But if you're content. You're calm, you're relaxed, with fits of happiness in between that. And that's much what I shoot for. But okay, and what am I supposed to do? Name something?
So you're top of the cob. It can be, I'll go first, just so you can get the scale. For sometimes it's an interaction, sometimes it's something I did. Today, my top of the cob is every night before bed, I have warm milk with turmeric in it. And it puts me to sleep. And if I feel like I'm in a Dickens novel, but it's really soothing. Warm milk with turmeric. What's your top of the cob?
That would be my nightmare. Making my wife laugh is probably the top of the thing for me.
Oh, I love that.
I like to, at least once a day, I make my wife laugh. The other night, it was like 2:00 in the morning. And I feel this. My wife goes like this. I go, what? She goes, honey, I just want to tell you I love you.
Oh.
And I went, you're having a nightmare. Go back to bed. She thought that was the funniest thing. I said, honey, you're just having a nightmare. Go back to bed. And she thought that was the funniest. And to me, that made me, and I like that because I had a nice sentiment in there. As well, I got a joke in, and I made her laugh. And just little things like that.
I love that.
That's the top. Yeah.
I love that. Okay, and your bottom of the cob. My bottom of the cob this week is the demand for apologies publicly, because I don't think anyone's ever apologized, and the group that's offended went, okay, you know what? We believe you're not racist. Thanks so much. So it's all performative, and everything just gets picked apart. So I don't believe that they're authentic.
But apologies can be. I told a story once about Susan. With the floor master. The thigh master, Susan
Lucci?
Summers.
Suzanne Summers. Yes.
Suzanne Summers. Okay. A story I told a bunch of times, and it wasn't true.
Oh.
And she sent me an angry letter.
Was it about wrapping your house in tampons with your wife and a grandma?
And I called her up and I said, you know something? This is a story that I heard from agents and other people. And I realized people just telling this story. I don't know whether it's because you're a woman and you wanted more money or whatever it was. But I did repeat the story. And I said, I apologize profusely. And if you'd like me to apologize on your website, I certainly will. I repeated something I just assumed was true. I found out it's not true, and I'm ashamed that I did it, and I apologize. And she couldn't have been nicer because she knew it was a sincere apology. And she said, thank you so much. And okay, so I have no problem with apology. It's just that when they're phony.
That's what I'm saying.
To me, I always love it when I read like some rapper, yo, that bitch, I slapped that bitch upside the head, motherfucker. Duh, duh, duh. And then the apology, we deeply regret any instance which my client made. And you realize some lawyer wrote it.
Right. And no one's sorry. And everyone's just saying it so they don't get sued. That's what I'm talking about. A personal apology is one thing. Demanding apologies, you're just like, who is this for? So that's my bottom of the cob this week. Jay, what's your bottom of the cob?
Bottom of the cob is, arguing and fighting with somebody over something. That's, I didn't grow up in a house where people yelled and screamed. When I was a kid, I could never watch TV shows like Maude, where husband and wife just yelled at each other, because my parents never did that. So I never fight at home. I never have I don't think my wife and I have ever had a real argument, maybe a couple little things. But, this idea that you have these terrible fights and then you have make-up sex. And, I don't have terrible fights. I know how to fight fair. And so does my, if you don't, my wife and I went on a double date with another couple. And they were arguing in the back seat. And the woman said to the guy, well, you're a terrible lay anyway. And I realized, okay, now you've said something you can never take back. Okay, that's one of those things. And they broke up. They got divorced right after that. But it was one of those things. There's no coming back from that kind of thing.
Right.
Whether the man says it or the woman says it, anytime you're intimate, it's going to, this is what's going through their mind.
Right.
Okay, so you just learn how to fight or argue fairly. You don't say things that you cannot take back.
You don't say things you can't take back. And if you do, you can give a heartfelt apology and see where it gets you. Jay Leno, thank you so much for coming on my podcast again. Yes.
Well, thanks everybody for the question, okay?
We loved having you, and they're fans, and I'm a fan, and I can't wait to see the show. You guys, for those of you, Jay Leno's Garage is on YouTube and CNBC. And you don't have social media because you don't need it.
See you later. Thanks.
Thanks, Jay Leno. Bye.
It's time to have your high five moment with High Five Casino, the top social casino where the action and real prizes never stop. Fun spins and big wins are right at your fingertips with over 1,000 games, including High Five Casino exclusives. High Five Casino is always free to play with free coins given out every 4 hours. Sign up today for a free welcome offer that can get you spinning and winning right away. Visit highfivecasino.com.
High Five Casino.
No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. Must be 21 years or older. Terms and conditions apply.